Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and this is Thursday. It's October the 3rd. A couple of things before we do the chart lesson. First of all, I'm probably going to take tomorrow off, so I may not trade tomorrow. If there's no video tomorrow, you'll know why. It's because I took the day off, and if you don't get any answers on emails, you'll know that too. I think I'm going to take a 3-day weekend and take off tomorrow, and start my weekend early. I need a little break. And so I think that's what I'm going to do. I may change my mind if it's raining. It's a chance it may rain. If it rains, I may decide to work. But if it's not raining, I'm going to take the day off and go play some golf or do something different. Just get a break for tomorrow. Again, basically, why I'm telling you this is if there's no video, then you'll know why. Another thing, I've been meaning to mention this, but I had to do some double checking on it first. But I thought maybe my email had been hacked, but I don't think that's the case. I've had that looked at pretty closely. And what's happened is somebody's spoofing my email. So if you're getting any spam or marketing, internet marketing type emails from Pat's Trading, then it's not for me. We don't do any email marketing at all. So you don't, I don't send out emails to anybody unless they're people that email me first, or I'm talking to one of you specifically for, something to do with manual purchases or anything like that. But other than that, you'll never hear from me by email because I don't do email marketing. We're not about that. So if you're getting emails from me that look like spam, what we've determined is somebody is just spoofing our email, and it makes it look like it's coming from us, but it's not. Most of it's just junk. I have noticed there's a few trading. The ones that really bug me, a couple of them are people that are, marketing trading stuff, and I don't want anybody confusing that with any of our materials. So one of the main ones I've seen a couple come from are because they're actually sending them to me as well, and that's how I figured this out, because I'm getting emails from myself. And then you go look, and nothing's gone out or nothing's been sent from my email account, so I know they're spoofing my email and just making it look like it's from me. It's amazing what they can, what these internet marketers can do these days. But one of them is prime-binary.com, and I don't know if the person that owns that material is the one doing it or somebody they've hired. But if he gets mad because I mentioned his website, and it's prime-binary.com, and I think they're selling binary options or something, some kind of. And if he gets mad because I mentioned his name, well, he needs to, if he didn't do it, then he better follow up with whoever he does his marketing for him, because, they're sending out spam and they're doing it using, spoofing other people's emails. And so, I'm not very happy about that. I might try to contact this person and let them know that, hey, please stop it. Or, if you're using somebody to help you with your internet marketing, well, then they're doing some shady stuff. So, but needless to say, I'm only telling you this because if you're getting emails from me that look like spam, I'm not sending them out, I promise you. And if you get any, let me know who they're from, especially if they're from some other trading company, because that's the ones that really worry me. I think most of you know that if you get something for Viagra or or some porn site, it ain't coming from me. I promise you that. It's not coming from us. I'm not an internet marketer. I don't do any internet marketing other than what our website, and I don't do any marketing by email is the main thing. So any of that stuff is not for me. So that's enough. Let's get to the chart lesson. Man, a lot of chance to make money today. We had a really big downtrend. And the first thing, this was your first little downtrend. It started out, here's my highs and my lows marked. Was it going to be another trading range day? You had to be concerned about that, but you see we went right on through there and continued on down. And you see these lines right here. The only reason I drew these is because originally I drew some lines across these lows right here, and that was fitting really well. And if you copy that and drag it up, then you had an idea of where prices might be going on the way up, and you can see that's where we found resistance. And so this line did come in handy a little bit later, and but once we kept going lower here, once we kind of broke below and kept moving lower, You know, I went back to my original channel, but I was looking at this coming back just in case, and you see it did come into play. And so if you were still trading then, you know, you might have, you know, you may not have even taken this trade that I have marked here, but there was enough room to get out, and it was a second entry. So that's the reason I marked it. But let's go talk about the trades. Plenty of, I mean, you know, you had a chance to be, I was through really early today. You had some really good trades. And if you were, you know, trading, you know, right at the open, right before the open, man, this set up perfectly right here. It broke higher first, then turned down. And when it broke below those bars, that was a great place to think about getting short. It's actually, you got a new high. Let me back out a little bit. It's kind of hard to see that, at least on my chart. You know, some charts might be a little bit different with the tick charts. But you had a new high there, pullback, first entry, pullback. There's a second entry long. And you might have even went long there, but I don't like that setup. If you did go long, let's just see if it worked. 83.50. It would have worked if you took it. I was thinking it didn't work, but you know, even if you use the stop right there, um, that would have worked. So if you took that long right there, I might as well go ahead and mark it. I didn't like it, and if I do mark it, I'd have to mark it in green. I'll tell you the reason that I didn't like it. You know, the trend looked like it was kind of up, but when you start to get all those matching highs right there, this is a trading range, and guess what usually happens when prices break out of a trading range? They snap back, and look what happened. They failed out this side, snapped back, went out the top and failed, and then gave you a chance to get short. And so I was looking at this as probably a trading range, and you can see those highs right across there. And that's what I was kind of looking at. And this was a nice trap, I thought, and I figured we were probably going to come back down, at least try to get some of these stops in here for where people got in. But man, this thing just took off, and any runners here were safe, and you could have ridden them all the way down till you got the break here and then made a new low right here. And you know, at the very least, you might have thought about exiting here because we kind of overshot right here. Notice how we overshot this side and then we overshot that side. It was a great chance to enter. There's a second entry short here, but not a good setup. But when you had the failed second entry long, notice the new high. You're coming down first. Let me get that bar out of the way. You're coming down first entry long, pull back, second entry long, it fails, and you can go short right there. This is one, it didn't close on this low. You might have thought about a limit order. It would have worked, but don't, you know, you don't know that this is going to be that strong a trend yet. But the main thing is you probably could have found this trend line right down through there by the end and drawn it right here. And regardless, it's a failed second entry long, and you know, it's looking like a trading range. We're probably coming down to at least here now and maybe here. And so this thing takes off, and again, any runners were safe. So you can ride this thing all the way to here if if you want to be aggressive with your runners and give them room. And you know, depends on how you want to play it. And then I circled this one in green, and the reason is because it's kind of like this right here, and we didn't really get a trap, but it is a second entry short, and it is coming off of this trend channel right here. And you see, once it broke lower high, it took off. And again, any runners would have survived. You could have ridden them all the way down. I mean, that's what's so good about a really strong trend, is that runner. This is when you get the money. This is where you make money on your runners, because all of these runners survived. And then now we've broken below, and if you remember what happened yesterday, we broke below, and this thing rocketed out of here, and they trapped everybody. So you had to be thinking about that today. And so I was kind of thinking that, and but you don't want to go long yet, because this is what I was seeing as the main trend line. I was looking for a little correction because, notice we got the break on the short term and a new low, and then you get a correction in here. And it really is just a trading range, and you probably wanted to draw your line so it makes it a little clear. And really kind of moved down, but that's really the gist of the trading range right there. And so, here's a great chance to go short off of it at a little bitty bar. And then really you could have taken this one too, because there's a failed second entry long there. I was a little hesitant. I'll tell you the reason I was a little hesitant to mark this one, because if you saw this median line we were kind of back above it, and there's a good chance now that we've bounced off this low side 3 times that we're going to come up to the high side, but it just couldn't do it. And but then you get a second entry short here, and you know what I think I'm going to do? I'm just going to mark that one in green because it was so tempting. And if I hadn't have already had made some really good money, I probably would have risked that one using the range rules. And there's a little trap there, one tick higher, two. Let me back out a little more. Maybe you can see it. You can see that one tick higher there above the, and then it turns down. But then you get a second entry right here, and this is kind of like a little breakout pullback short. I had this move down here to right about there, and so you kind of break lower and you turn back down. But I really looked at it almost like a second entry long trap, because this looks like a first entry and pulled back a second entry on a bigger picture, even though you went one tick higher. And there's probably a lot of longs got trapped in right in here, I guarantee it. And so that was what I was thinking of. They're probably going to run this thing lower. And so I looked at this like a breakout pullback short, and it looked similar to a trap, but then you definitely get a failed second entry long here, new high, first entry, pullback, second entry, and it's just another form of a breakout pullback. You can see that because you kind of had a double bottom there, and it's right off the EMA, and boom, and then you come back and you test it again, and look at that bearish bar. It was scary going short at this low, but you got to figure, you know, we just came off the low side, or just coming off the high side, and look how many times we tried to go higher and couldn't do it. The market's weak, so we're probably coming to this other side. There's plenty of room there. That's why I like this one. It made me a little nervous when it hung up there, but it just kept on going and kept on going. And then guess what? You get another little two-legged kind of correction back. This one I drew in green because now you've come all the way down here again. It's so close to the low. You've just made a double bottom with a little trap there. But this market is really weak. And there's one other thing. Let me show you here. I forgot to show you this. You got to figure that this is your first leg, and then your second leg is right here. So this is what I was looking for prices to try to get down here, but they couldn't get down here. It just was too much. We'd had so much selling that it just was oversold, and so I really didn't like selling this. But by the rules, you can't hardly ignore it, especially in a strong downtrend. So if you took that one, it's aggressive, especially with the overlap and all there. But I didn't like it, and but I didn't think that I couldn't circle it because I guarantee you there's some of you that saw it and maybe took it if you weren't counter trend trading trying to buy, because after a move down like that and a little move in a bar like that, you're going to get the counter trend traders that come in and they load up in here, and then it turns down. They got to all get out, and you don't know that it's going to shoot on down and overshoot this line like that, but it did. And I figured it'd probably just kind of chop lower and get you out, but it shot on down because it really tried. I guarantee there were a lot of longs trying to buy a bottom here, and then they tried it again here, and this time it finally works. But you can't try buying bottoms in this. And notice this. This is kind of like one leg up. You got a first entry short here actually, and then a second. I didn't think it was worth going short there, but when this pulled back again and didn't go higher, then I'm thinking, hey, maybe we're going to go lower. Maybe I don't have my lines right. And this would have worked because it broke higher first, so you could have your stop weight in there, and you would have got just enough to get out. I drew that in green. I still think it's risky because now we've overshot the low side, and you can see that line was holding all the way down through there. So I like that line. I think it was right. And then we overshot it. And sometimes when you get an overshot when you're oversold that hard, that's when you don't get a retest. They still tried to retest it over here, and they're still trying, but they haven't been able to retest the slow yet. And they probably will before, maybe tomorrow sometime or something. Anyway, I thought this was really aggressive, so I circled it in green, but it is a little trap there. And this one I liked only because now we've overshot this. We made a higher low here. This is like a little triple bottom, a higher low, a higher high, and this is a higher low. And this is like a little two-legged, move down here, but it bounces right off of that. So actually, and it's such a little bar that you get a chance to get in with a tiny stop. So I really like that. And you might have even thought about going long above that bar because there's plenty of room in this little channel here. Actually, I originally had this out here, and it may still be right. But since we turned down right there, I ended up kind of moving that a little lower like so. And it seems to fit better up through there. And then you get the overshoot up here as well and the sell-off. Um, but I like that trade. Um, And then, of course, now we're getting close up here. You don't want to be buying yet unless you're coming off a trend line or something of that nature. Um, or you're coming off. The only reason I like it, and I really started to draw this one green, the reason I really like this one is just because the higher highs and higher lows here. That's a sign. And it's way oversold by this time. There's a good chance that we're coming back to here. I was a little surprised that we didn't turn down here, but that's not, really that surprising because we did overshoot it. That's what will usually happen. That's a good sign the market's oversold. It's really weak, and then finally, they start rallying in here, and all those people that have been short, they start buying back, and then the people realize the market's going higher and they start buying. But I didn't like entering in here. This is kind of the no man's land we always talk about. This thing's still going higher, uh, but there's but when it came off that line right there, you had to think about that one. And I know at least one other person saw this. Somebody sent me an email asking about this. And then guess what? You get another chance right here. And these are first entries, but this is a pretty good trend going up, especially right here. The buying really came in. And so I just, and there's also another reason to take this trade that I haven't even talked about. If you drag this line over, you can see that this was a trading range. This is a little failed break lower. So there were more than one reason to take that trade because you figure they probably trapped some people. And even if it's going lower, they're probably going to take it out. And just like it was kind of a repeat of this little pattern right here, notice it failed out the bottom first and then failed out the top and then started selling off hard again. And remember what we talk about, repeat patterns. When you see a pattern and you see it set up again, it looks almost the same again, then there's a good chance it's going to do the same thing. So just keep that in mind. And then, too, remember if you had the lower lines on there, if you drew the bigger channel that I had drawn, you can see that right there. I originally had it off that very high right there, I think. And you can see, that was the first touch of it, and then we come back up and test it again, and then we sell off. And you can see they kept trying to take it higher, but it was finding too much resistance here because of this possible bigger channel. And there it is. And we're just coming off of it all the way down this side here. So that's what I saw today. Really good trading day. There really is not much need to trade this late in the day unless you don't start till later, because there were just so many entries in here and so many runners. You didn't get as many runners off of this setup here, but all of these entries allowed you to have runners that just you could have ridden all the way as far as you could, you could muster it, and without taking your profit or being worried when it starts to back up, because you don't want to give it back. And unless there's a really, really strong trend, I usually will try to get, exit my runners on the other side of the range, or I'll look for the next strong support, like right here is where I exited some of these runners here. And when it came back down here and it starts doing here, I would think about exiting my runners there, and here I probably would just exit on each side until you get a breakout pullback short. Then you might try some runners, but you can see they came back and got those. I think your runners would have been good off of that trade, and even this trade you could have got a couple of 3 points there, and before it comes back. And then there were some really good trades here that got runners too. So and some people, I was tempted to draw that one in green because you got your double bottom and your higher low. And but that's just really aggressive in a downtrend like that. You need to see at least a few swings like so. This was the first one that I felt like you could justify, because if you had this trend line over here, and let me just show you how you find, if you drew that trend line off those first couple of swings right there, you can see that. And you might have had it there originally, but you drag it down when this makes this low, and look where it bounces, right there, then right there, and then right there. And so you could have had that in place. These two swings happen by 11:15, I would say, and you drag it down you just keep moving it down till you get the last low. And so by 11:15, you could have had that line in place, and it bounces off there at 11:43. So you had 30 minutes to be looking at that and finding that. And then this one didn't happen until almost 12:30, so almost 2 hours. So that's how you find this stuff, and you can see that's a good. You can see that holding all the way up through there. Um, it works. So use those lines, and if you can't find it, it was questionable because you might have started here, then here. Um, and even if you didn't do anything else, you could have easily found these two and had this one in place by 11:43 and been ready for this one that started at 12:20. So that's almost an hour for that one, and then another hour for that one. That you got to sit and wait and be patient until they come. A lot of times you want to wait on a second entry, but somebody else asked me that earlier. But let me show you this. Even if you wait, even if you take the first entry, it's a little more aggressive. But generally, even when prices come back, if there's a good trend, the first entry will actually work. You just have to ride back a little bit of a pullback. Um, let me just see if I can find a good example of that here so you can understand what I'm talking about. Yeah, well, here's one right here. This is not perfect, but if say this was off the trend line, notice you got your first entry here, and it would have worked. You had to ride this pullback, but as long as your stop is up here, it all works out, and then you get the next big move, and then you catch it. And but when you see it like right here coming off these lines, generally you get some really big moves. So I hope that makes sense. It's just not a great example of one. Let me just see if I see one over here somewhere. Here's one right here. This was yesterday. You got to pull back. There's your first entry, and if you took it, you would have been in right here, and your stop would have gone right below these lows right there, right across here, 3 matching lows, and so your stop would have been at 63.50. I like to put mine as 2 if I can, so maybe actually 83.50. So I might add mine at 83 and a quarter if I had room. And then you get your second entry here, and your first entry still would have survived. You just had to ride out that little pullback, and that's one of the things with first entries is that they're just a little, you may have to ride a pullback out. If it's with the trend and if it's off the trend line, you just can't hardly ignore the entry. And you can see every one of these moves. If you know you got a good trend line, you got to go with it. And just like here, here, and here, all 3 of those were good right off the trend line, and that was a pretty obvious trend channel right there. If you're really new at this with the lines, you may not have found it, but anyway, I hope that makes sense to everybody what I'm saying about the first entries, and I'm not confusing anybody. But that was pretty much what I saw through a little bit after lunchtime today. And I'm doing this a little late today because I was done early and I went out and ran some errands and came back to do the video. So I'm doing it a little bit later than normal. But I've been out this afternoon. And like I said, just a reminder, if you get any spam from Pat's trading website, it's not coming from me. Somebody's spoofing our emails, and there's no way to, other than looking at the websites and trying to contact those people, there's no way we can really run it down. But if you get one from some of these people, send them a bunch of complaints if you can. Don't reply back to the email complaining because it'll probably come back to me. because it looks like my email address, but it's coming from somewhere else. I can assure you, I've had it looked into, and I really thought somebody had hacked my email, but I don't think that's the case. So, uh, but that, and if no video tomorrow, you'll know why. It's Friday, and I may take a long weekend. So, but anyway, I'm going to wrap it up for the day. Hope you had a good trading day. These are the kind of days you kind of wrap your arms around them and try to get your runners and hang on to them as long as you can and get as much of them as you can. But it only takes a trade or two on a day like this, depending on how big your target, your daily target goal is. But it only takes a couple of trades on a day like this when you can catch some runners to make some pretty good money. So, and you don't get these kind of days very often. And even the trend going back up was really strong. And you just don't get these kind of days very often. So when you get one, try to get what you can out of it. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.